I live in whatever music I'm listening to at that moment. That's the greatest music ever, in my opinion. I've been Willie Nelson for like 3 days, and I'm like, this
Yeah.
guy, I mean, you can't beat this guy.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the redheaded bandit. This is the
Yeah.
dude. He's the guy. And then I went to see the Mars Volta documentary last night, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know why I would even think Willie. This Mars Volta, the progressive rock, the way the sounds and
Oh,
the this
yeah.
and the that.
Prog rock.
And
Forget Willie.
and then and then this morning I saw this little mini documentary on like Sabrina Carpenter's taking over music, and I'm like, I mean, she's the greatest. Who's better than Sabrina? So that was
Oh.
the story of how we got from where we are right now to where we are. Now, you know what's funny? And I am a poser, Andy. I'm wearing my. Can you
I
see
see
it? I'm
that. Your
wearing
redheaded stranger t-shirt. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is so I bought this as a poser because I went on tour with there's a guy real popular right now named Jelly Roll.
Yeah, I
You know,
know Jelly Roll. Yeah.
you know Jelly. How can you not? He's everywhere. He's the new Chipotle. he's on every street corner. He's the poke bowl of music right now. And I went on tour, I opened for him, and because I was like, I like country in the
Mhm.
sense that like this podcast, you know, Jerry, we've been doing it what 6.5 years.
Yeah.
So almost we're almost there. We're almost done. But I remember the first one was Loretta Lynn. That was my first obsession. Then it was Steve Earle. We did Guitar Town, which I know Steve is like, he's not like really, I don't know if he's accepted into the country, you know, because he's more of a liberal, and he's very outspoken, but I fucking love that. And then we've done like Merle Haggard, and we did Stardust with Willie. But the thing is, it's just like I said, it's like, I'm always, when I do the podcast, I get involved and then I'm like, oh my God, I love this guy. Country is a music that I used to hate. And now the more and more I listen to it, the more I fall in love with it. Which leads me to be the first question I want to ask you is a guy, you grew up in Michigan, right?
No, I was born in Michigan, but I grew up in the Midwest, and it's all like I grew up in Illinois. I spent most of my time in Illinois, Indiana, Illinois, mostly. My dad taught at Bloomington in Indiana, IU, and when my folks split up, we moved back to my mom's hometown, which is Yorkville, Illinois, which is a small town. But it's it's weird because it's 60 or 70 miles west of Chicago. So you get Chicago TV and people talking about, your Dodges and your Toyotas. And then, but then, like there are people around, especially like my grandparents, some of my grandparents' friends who talk real kind of country. Like there's a little bit of twang to them.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, there's also just kind of flat Midwestern, but there definitely, I did not grow up in a household with country music, but I had relatives. Like I feel like I had my Uncle Raymond and my Aunt Helen. I'm sure it wasn't the case, but I feel like every time I went to their house, Hee Haw was on TV, and it was just,
Oh,
I think my Uncle Raymond had like every Louis L'Amour book. Like he just had a wall of paperback Westerns. So there was country music around, but it wasn't honestly until I became an adult that and I think it was Hank Williams, where I was just like, wait a minute. Holy shit, this is rock and roll, and this is important, and this is vital, but you gotta have a gene for it. You can't, like,
it's not for everybody.
I'll listen to, I'll listen to Buck Owens, and I have like a playlist that's all Buck Owens, and I'll listen to it, and I can listen to it for 3 hours, and I could totally understand why somebody would go like, what the fuck are you listening to? Because it is like, it's all kind of the same, but it's like, oh man, it hits me right where I live.
Completely.
Yeah.
Before we go even any further into that, can we just give a shout out to your aunt and uncle names, Raymond and Helen? I mean, those are top 0.1% of like aunt and uncle names.
Yeah.
And I love that they're the ones that are watching. Would you say, was it Hee Haw?
It was Hee Haw. Yeah, yeah.
God, because I completely agree with everything you said about, when you grow up, like me and Jer, we grew up right outside of Washington, D.C. in Germantown, Maryland, which is the suburbs of DC, obviously in between Baltimore and DC. And then if you go, I always used to say, it's like, if you go 20 minutes south, you're in the busiest, most, metropolitan city in the world, Washington,
Yeah.
DC. It's everything. But if you go 20 minutes north, you're in Frederick, which is this, which I would never call it like, on the level of like, like the way Bakersfield or the
Right.
way that,
Or deep Appalachia or whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's not that.
Yeah.
But there is a level of like, I always used to think that was such like almost like a whole nother world to go out that deep. And
Oh,
country,
absolutely.
and country, because it was part of that area where I never wanted to associate myself with the far out like that. I was like, no, I'm a city guy. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go into the district. So I'm whatever's popular, whatever's smart. I'm, if you guys, okay, cool. You guys listen to Merle Haggard, I'll listen to Radiohead because
Yeah.
am an intellectual.
Yeah, I'm smart. Yeah.
But little do you know that country music is probably just as, and let me be very specific on this, because this statement, I'm not going to put all country music in this, but this era, the 60s, the 70s of country music is probably some of the best and realest storytelling
Oh,
that you will
absolutely.
ever. Yeah, but no one
Absolutely.
knows that. No one, they
Absolutely.
yeah, this is I've said this a million times on the podcast of why I started loving more and more of like the outlaw stuff. I was like, this is punk rock. This is NWA. This is
Mhm.
like fuck you to the man. This is MC5, but with a bandolier guitar, just playing it, on a prairie, talking about growing up broke, growing up with nothing. In this case, which we'll get into, that this is the country music dark side of the moon. It's the wall of
Yeah.
country music, because this is the first concept record, which I just love this. I love it
Yeah.
so much. So when did it start for you? When did country, like, when did it kick in? When did it
Well,
kick
I
in the
just
gillies?
just to follow on what you say, because like, like this album, you could say this album is dark. And it's like, for country music, this is not dark. There's a whole subgenre of just murder songs,
Yeah.
of just, I caught my woman cheating and I killed her and I buried her in a mine and now her ghost fucking haunts me. It's like, and that was from the 50s. Like,
Yeah.
there's they, and that is like that. You want to talk about hip hop or rap? Like that was, but it's just, it's like the music of poor people, and
Yeah.
the poor people that are so poor that they are close to crime, like
Yeah.
that, because that's one of the main drivers of crime is like, I don't have any money. And so there's, like Merle Haggard's whole thing is, I went to fucking jail. I robbed people and killed people because I went to jail. And he didn't kill anybody, but he did go to jail,
That
because
we
he
know
was
about.
a thief. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think it was probably, like I say, it was Hank Williams, but also too it was when I was in college, because I started college at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, and I think I had like a Hank Williams greatest hits kind of thing,
Yeah.
and Lefty Frizzell was another one of my first like country.
Wait, Lefty Brizzell or Drizzle? Because Lefty
Frizzell.
Drizzell.
No,
Okay,
Frizzell.
that okay,
Frizzell.
because he was the
EELL.
coach of the University of Maryland
No,
Terrapins. So
no,
I was
no.
like, he was
Well, you
really
know
that
what?
was
He might have been, his nickname might have come from it being close to Lefty Frizzell.
sure,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
sure.
And Lefty Frizzell had a son, I think David, who was a big country star, like in the 80s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah,
Um, but I started with that, and then started to go. I transferred to Columbia College in Chicago, and I went to film school, and I started to hang out in like these old man taverns on the north side. And the north side of Chicago, especially the uptown neighborhood, it is full of transplants, I'm not so much anymore, but starting in the 40s and 50s, transplants from Appalachia, because they'd cut the top off a mountain, and they would take all the people that were displaced for the coal mining and drop them in uptown Chicago. And so you go to taverns in uptown Chicago, and 60% of the jukebox is old country music. And and the you hear in the you hear in the old people's voices when you're sitting at the bar, you can hear that they're not from Chicago, and so I started to hear country music on the jukebox, and then found like George Jones. And I don't know if you've done much George Jones dive. Do it. George Jones will fuck you up.
So wait. So I'm gonna go. Why I know this is, so I do that show, the Goddamn Comedy Jam, where comedians sing, and early on, you must know John Doerr. He's like the pride of Canada. Yeah. Oh yes, my God, because him and Rory did that incredible bit on Conan where they both did the same. Yeah. So genius comedian. And he's doing it for the first time. And this is very early on in the show's history. So this is like 3 or 4 shows. I kind of knew it was like, you got to do a hit, you got to do something rock. But I love John so much, I was like, you do whatever you want. And he goes, I want to do She Stopped Loving You Today by George Jones.
Loving Her.
Yeah. But Jeremiah, this, because he knows it, but this song is literally, I think it's like about a suicide, or he kills himself, or
it's like we went. It's a guy's funeral, and the lyric, and it starts out and like, we went to his funeral, and it was sad, and then it's like, but his suffering is over, and then it's this huge violin swell. He stopped loving her today. They placed a wreath upon his door, and soon they'll carry him away. He stopped loving her today because he's dead. Yeah. Like she left him, and he had been pining for her, and like, there's a spoken word part in the middle, and George Jones is like, and this time it's for sure that he's over her for good. And also it's like that is like, it's funny you bring that one up, because that song is produced by a guy named Billy Sherrill, who I think it was Columbia. I get the record labels wrong, but he created a Nashville sound with Chet Akins. Chet Akins is an amazing guitar, an amazing picker, but was like a dictatorial, ran the country music part of Columbia Records in Nashville. And that's where you get all the strings. And He Stopped Loving Her Today is one of like the like essential sound, like of that sound. Huge swelling strings, huge production,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Redheaded Stranger is anti. That's Redheaded Stranger exists because of songs like He Stopped Loving Her Today. And I love them both, but it's like He Stopped Loving Her Today is like slightly less grandiose as Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like Queen.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And Redheaded Stranger is Exile on Main Street. It's like, I love them both. They're very different things, but and they're both country, but they do different things with country. But that's Willie's whole later part of his career was because he got chewed up and spit out by that machine, by that you got to put strings on it. And in fact, this album, I was reading a little bit about this album. They ran it by Billy Sherrill, and he's like, this is a fucking demo. Like, this isn't even done, like, you got to put something on this. And then they put it out, and and it's a multi-platinum selling album, which, although at the time you can't blame, I mean, even the label was like, this doesn't sound done, but they didn't know, it's like, that's what geniuses are for, that's
when everything is, when everything's going one way and that's what's popular, everybody just wants more of the popular.
Yes.
They don't give it. It's like, so when you come in saying, well, I'm going to, we're going to do this now, dude, it was like, I've said this a billion times on the podcast. It was you know, you remember it like fucking in the late 90s when you're talking, it's like Corn and Limp Bizkit, and it's all big, big, big. And then the Strokes came out and people were like, wait, you know, but you know, this is incredible, but no one knew that was going to happen. Probably the record execs were like, all right, you know, this doesn't have, you know, we need more production. We need bigger music. Everything's big, big, big. And and I think, you know,
it's all a cycle anyway, because, you know, Willie Nelson was referencing old, you know, like, I'm forgetting his name. Earl Tubbs. Is it Earl Tubbs? I forget.
Jeremiah, look it up, dude. Look it up, bro.
No, he had a record shop, and but he was a Texas singer, and he sang "Walking the Floor Over You." Ernest Tubb, that's who it is.
Okay.
Like when Willie was doing this album, he was like, Ernest Tubb did a bunch of stuff where it was just him and guitar, like it was all stripped down, and that's what, you know, country music came from people sitting on a porch with acoustic instruments, and it had what they called this high lonesome sound, which is like yodeling into English folk music, and it was just guitar and banjo. So the notion that country music needed a bunch of bells and whistles, like that was a new idea, you know, and then that idea became old, and so they go back, and it's the same thing. Like the Strokes are just you know, they're just
years ago.
Yeah, they're just Velvet Underground. You know, the Strokes are the Velvet Underground. So it's kind of like, it's just, you know, music tends to kind of reinvent itself. It's the same thing in TV. Matt Weiner, who created Mad Men, wrote on one of my first sitcoms and gave me the pilot to this show called Mad Men that was about advertising in the 50s, or, you know, and everyone told him no. Period pieces do not work. Period does not work. They want things that are for today. Finally, you get somebody to bite. They put it on. It's the biggest thing ever. All those people that told him period doesn't work then are doing like swinging 60s, you know, like TWA stewardesses.
Pan Am.
Yeah, they all just follow. And in one sense, you think, oh, you fucking cowards. But in the other sense, it's like, well, yeah, but they're not geniuses. Like it's like it takes geniuses to say, no, we're going to go do this now. This is what we should be doing. And that's
not off topic because AMC is the network that Mad Men was on. Is there a network of like that you? Because I was thinking about this because I was watching The Penguin. Been watching that, and then I'm like, oh, I get to watch Dune Prophecy next. Right. I'm an HBO guy. Are you? Is there a network that you swear by? Like.
Oh, I mean, definitely HBO is pretty great. FX does really good stuff these days.
Yeah, they do.
And I mean, and when I was shopping around shows, and I did 2 shows for them, like Fox was, like I would always say, like Fox is where you have The Simpsons and When Animals Attack. And somewhere in there, I feel like I fit in. Like, I mean, Fox has got their problems, and you know, and when I did work for Fox, I was like, well, I'm not working on the Death Star. I'm on one of the ships that's near the Death Star. But you know, Fox was another one, and Fox still does. They'll do interesting with a trashy sort of exploitative edge. But like, that's what, you know, I don't want to watch fucking West Wing, you know, I want to watch When Animals Attack.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with When Animals Attack. Is there a network that you're like, I'm not everything. I'm not, and I mean, we both sold shows before, so maybe we shouldn't do this. Right. But I'm going to say it. Maybe I shouldn't. Showtime. I just can't get it.
I don't. I mean, I don't really know them, but like, I mean, there is the obvious one, like CBS. CBS is really still kind of cornered the market on, and that isn't to say anyone out there, I'll work for you. I don't give a shit. I'll give me a BET. You need a host out here. I'll be there. But you know, CBS is just, I mean, it's their business is stuff that grandparents can watch with the grandkids, and that's sort of been their deal forever, you know. And that's just like, I feel like, I mean, I could do something there, but it wouldn't exactly. I don't feel like I exactly
no, they want
in,
Bob
you
and
know?
They want Bob and Abishola or whatever.
Yeah,
they want they want all the Big Bang. I don't think I've ever watched one episode of The Big Bang Theory. Not
I
one. I
I
just don't
mean,
get.
I
Is that bad?
I honestly don't watch a lot of comedy. I just, it's like I feel like it's a plumber watching HGTV. I just am like, no, I want to see like the one that I just have been just cruising through is Lioness on Paramount Plus. It's
Yeah.
yet another fucking Tyler Sheridan show, and it's about Zoe Saldana runs a team of undercover CIA agents, and it's all women who go undercover to befriend the women near terrorist targets and then kill them. And it's fucking great. It's just,
Really?
it's such dad TV. It's all like, we got to get on a jet to Langley immediately. And,
Yeah. Oh,
it,
I love, dude. I'm in, dude. Yellowstone. I flew through a lot of that. I'm watching. What was I watching right now? Is like I'm doing Penguin. I love anything HBO does. So that's like if they co-sign it, I'm like, all right,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going with it.
They also do the documentary stuff on HBO is like
It's the best.
almost everything. Like it's very hard for HBO to make a documentary that I'm not into, like, cause sometimes documentaries just on a topic, I don't give a shit about that, but
Yeah.
almost everything they do is, they just like, like, I don't even give a shit about yoga, but there was just like a 4-part, yoga expose, which I was like, I was there for it.
The night that the Going Clear, the Scientology documentary came
Yeah.
out was the first night that I did dabs, which is like the strongest weed you can ever do.
Right,
And
right.
I was buying vape juice. I took a dab. I went home. I was all excited to watch that documentary. And I mean, I think I laid in the fetal position watching Going Clear. It's still one of the scariest things.
I thought you ran out to get a personality test. Like it was that bad.
My thetans. No,
This sounds good.
You know what's funny is because I've heard buddies say they wanted to go into Scientology just to like, I think even Nick Kroll's talked about
to
this.
Go undercover. Yeah.
Not even go undercover, just go get the test as like a joke. And I'm telling you, I remember, I think it was Nick that said that he and another buddy went, and it was like, they've never been left alone ever since. They find them at every address they ever go to, everything. They keep sending him things. Yeah. So, and then even from that, going back to that Mars Volta documentary, that's a huge part of the ending where it's like, he was married to one of the women that were like, why am I talking about this? Watch the documentary. It's basically, I was about to bring up Danny Masterson, and I'm like, no, just Willie Nelson. Josh, stay on topic. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right. So Willie Nelson, something that blew my mind about this record, Andy, is that this is his 18th studio record.
Yep.
18th in 1975. Yep. So I know that it always feels like in the past, like the Beatles, like, nobody realizes it unless you really see it, that they only had a career of about 6 or 7 years.
Right.
And in those 6 or 7 years, they put out about 10, 11 records. So Willie's story is an interesting one. Do you know it? Or, because I don't know if I don't know if we talked about this. We did Stardust before.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Yeah,
but that's covers, so it doesn't really count. You know what I mean?
But I'm talking, we never really talked about his career. Is that so? This guy, he's a radio DJ.
Yep.
For years.
And a guitar
teacher. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm trying to see in 60, he moves to Nashville, signed a publishing contract that allowed him to join Ray Price's band as a bassist. In 62, he records his first record. So 62, this album came out in 75.
Yep.
So that's churning them out. Due to success, Nelson signed in 64 with RCA Victor, joined the Grand Ole Opry the following year after mid-chart hits in the late 60s and early 70s. He grew weary of corporate Nashville music scene, and in 72 moved to Austin. Austin motivated Nelson to return to performing. In 73, signs with Atlantic. Damn, he's all over the place. He's in every cut. He's just churning and burning. Nelson turned to outlaw country in 73. And
he and Waylon Jennings sort of, and they didn't say, Waylon Jennings has a song called "Don't You Think This Outlaw Thing's Done Got Out of Hand," and it's all about being busted for drugs and stuff, because, but yeah, they were sort of called outlaw because probably because they had long hair. Honestly, they had greasy long hair and they did a bunch of pills.
Yeah, they
But
have a
Johnny,
song together that me and Bill Burr, like, not to name drop, but we've sang it a million times. It just says like, enough of the cocaine, enough of the thing, baby,
yeah,
enough of
yeah,
the alcohol, enough of the whiskey, dude.
yeah. Yeah, no, they but yeah, it was a all just to move away from that. But it was also, I mean, I think, you know, Willie didn't like what was going I mean, it'd be interesting to see like if he had caught on in that Nashville sort of factory,
Mean, yeah,
if he ever would have been this, but he was just kind of rejected by it. And he did have his own ideas, and he did have his own style that he would not get rid of, like he had, because he a lot of what he does is jazz, and I'm not a musician, so I don't understand a lot of this stuff, but he sings and plays behind the beat, like he's
Mhm.
he's like, or he's a little slow. It's and there's these constant critiques about his kind of flat, so singing, and he was singing off the beat, and the only use they had for him was as a songwriter. And he wrote Crazy for Patsy
Yep,
Cline. He wrote The Nightlife for Ray Price. And he wrote Ain't It Funny How Time Slips Away for
yep,
everybody. And
yep.
but not only that, he wrote those 3 songs in like 2
And like,
days.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In
I heard that.
which I just am like, he must have been visible from outer space, because those are fucking classics. I mean, just
Crazy itself, yeah. That
yeah,
is like that is one of the most iconic, not just country songs, but
yeah,
songs of
yeah.
all time.
All 3 of them. If you don't know all 3 of them, Ain't It Funny How Time Slips Away? That's, I mean, that has become almost like a jazz standard at this
Yeah.
point. And like the song Nightlife, it's uh it's the Nightlife.
I love the boogie
No,
in the disco, and
it's all about
I
it's
wanna dance. I
it's
know it's
on,
not
and
that, but
if you one of the best country albums that you'll ever be able to hear, and you should listen to it the minute we're done here. Ray Price did an album called The Nightlife, and this was the title song, and it's full of just like people like fucking losers at a bar songs. Like there's one called and Willie I think wrote this one too. It's Are You Sure This Is Where You Want to Be? And it's him singing to a woman who he can't get out of the bar, like his wife or somebody that can't get out of the bar. And he says, take a good look, or look around you, take a good look at all the local used to be's. Are you sure this is where you want to be? Which is just fuck. That's, just in terms of lyrics, that it's like
yeah,
you said, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I challenge any genre of music to top
to write
some
that,
of the
yeah.
some of the country lyrics that you get, and some of the stuff that he's written, and some of the stuff that, there's just so much to this music.
You know, I
Not
made a
today's
joke or
country. Today's country is bullshit.
well, I actually, and I'm not gonna say you're wrong. I think there was a real bad period when I was really getting into music. So I'd say late 90s verse and all the way up until maybe about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Because now there's a merging
There's
of
some good people.
rock. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're like, dude, listen, I mean, Jelly is all, I remember when I was like met the guy and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna like this guy's music, and he's offered me to go on tour with him, and then I listened to it, I was like, no, this isn't bad. I was like,
Oh yeah.
actually, I dig it's it's because he's not doing outlaw, but I can tell that he's influenced by it and being real. I
Yeah.
think there was that when you say the bad country, and I'll fucking say this is like that, like that crappy like Toby Keith shit, or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
or like
Or even if you listen to modern country now, and I mean, and people make jokes about it. I'm not the first one to notice it. It's like AI, and you plug in dirt
yep,
road pickup truck, drinking
yep,
beer by the creek with my girl,
it's
honoring my
that Al Dean
dad.
shit, yeah.
Yeah, it's all just the same regurgitated. Jason Isbell, who's a really great but I mean, he doesn't. He's sort of beyond country. I think he's more considered. They call him Americana, but like
Yeah,
he
and
said, I talked. He was on my podcast, and I talked to him about. It. He said, yeah, they're just they are good at pushing buttons in Nashville right now, and people just love to have those buttons smashed.
yeah.
They just keep hitting those same buttons, and people they like it, they buy it. You
It's
know,
probably the most popular music right now next to like hip hop. Dude,
yeah,
Beyonce just did a country record. Post Malone is going into a country record. Jelly, like I mentioned him again, he's one of the biggest touring artists right now. I think he just had the #1 record.
yeah,
Country has, which look is, it is like jazz, a true American art form. It's unfortunate that for years so many people would be like, you'd ask somebody, what do you listen to? I listen to everything but country.
yeah, yeah,
I've heard that a million times,
absolutely.
and it's because, like I said, they've been getting force fed shit, and they didn't
Yep,
go back, and that's
yep.
why this podcast is so awesome, because we go back to
Yeah,
find out about what all that great shit was, and
yep,
I mean this. I don't, I don't know if I would have heard this in 1995, 96 when I was like in high school and listening to grunge, if I would have been able to appreciate how incredible this record is. But listening to it now at 45, it's hands down. I'm like, why haven't I been listening to this for years?
yep,
This is so powerful, so incredible. And that's just listening it on the surface, not even really digging into the lyrics yet. And then the more I read the lyrics and I figure out the story of the redheaded stranger, it's like, oh, of course they made a movie out of this. Do you know
yeah,
the full story?
yeah, yeah. The album is based on an old country song, and just in the 50s, it's not like old country song, called "The Ballad of the Redheaded Stranger," which is on the album, which is the part that's uh, about don't cross him, don't boss him, he's wild in his sorrow. That is the and that what's fucking hilarious to me, and I didn't know until I did some reading about this. That song was written for Perry Como.
Really?
Yes. But
Oh,
because of
shit.
some sort of publishing problems, he didn't do it. So it was given to some other guy, Luther Guitar Boogie, some guy that didn't, and it got a little bit of radio play. And if you ever, it would be fun to look it up, and it's like on YouTube. It's a very sort of like bouncy kind of song. All the lyrics are the same about a guy rides into town and a woman tries to touches his horse, and he shoots her dead immediately and gets
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
with it
Yeah.
because she was
Yeah.
trying to steal his horse. I mean,
Yeah.
and that was, there again, talk about dark. That was a bouncy country song in the radio in like 1954. Like, oh, this is a
Yes.
fun one. Let's dance to this, honey. And
I shot her dead and I killed her there, and
yeah,
took
and
her horse and her underwear.
yeah,
Ba-ba-ding-ding,
and
ba-ba-ding-ding-ding-ding.
Willie used to play it on his radio station, and then he used to cover it. And his wife, before this album, and he had left. He was on Atlantic, which was a good situation for him, and he made a couple albums for them. One
Yeah.
called Shotgun Willie, which is a really good album, and Phases and Stages, which is kind of his first sort of dabbling in a concept album.
But these are like his two outlaw ones. These are the ones where now
This
he's
is the
being
beginning
pushed.
of
The
this
beginning
is
of
the beginning
yeah.
about I'm outside the Nashville machine.
Yes.
Atlantic closes their country division, so he goes over to I forget who it is, RCA. I don't, like I
Either
say,
way.
the labels. But he goes to a new label where they don't pay him a ton of money, but they give him complete control. And he's talking to his wife, and his wife says, "Why don't you do Ballad of the Redheaded Stranger, and why don't you write a bunch of songs inspired by that?" So, like the fact that the Time of the Preacher takes place in Blue Rock, Montana, is just because that's where the Redheaded Stranger, and so he
Yeah.
just is riffing on this song, the Blue-Headed Stranger, or the Redheaded Stranger, and filling out the story and
Yeah.
and adding other songs that he writes himself to it, and songs that already existed, like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. And it's a it's a Western. It's a samurai story. It's just,
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a sparse story of love and betrayal and violence and redemption, and it's
Mhm.
all there in an album with like bass guitar and harmonica,
Yeah.
and piano, his sister on piano.
If you could make a concept record, what would it be about? What would your concept record be about?
Probably something about the humiliation of the workplace. That having
Yeah.
a job is just an endless parade of humiliation, and I don't know what to do about it. Like I don't have a solution. But I do just feel like, oh yeah. I mean, I've had lovely workplaces, but I do just feel like that what you're told is life is kind of like, well, you have to go eat shit. You have to go.
Yeah,
You have to go do. Someone will tell you what to do, and that person might be a fucking idiot. They might be, and they might be nice. They might be
yeah,
awful, but you got to do what you're told. And
yeah,
I don't know what to do with that because I can't. I don't have a better system. Got to
yeah.
work, got to make a
Gotta
living.
work.
Got to buy groceries.
Yeah, all I hear in my head is I'm like, I don't want to talk by the water cooler. I don't want to talk to you.
what would
HR.
what would yours be?
I was thinking about that. I would do something with my dog. Just I don't know. I rescued her in West Covina, and she just had such a great life with me, and it's kind of what she would see and with me. You know what I mean? Like that was what I was thinking about that as I asked that. It would be like. I think it would be from the dog's perspective of seeing
Yeah.
me. That's now listen, that yours is way better and way more
No.
relatable.
I actually have an idea in my head, like one of my many ideas that I never execute about a story that's kind of about because I got divorced a few years ago and I got a dog. We had dogs, but I lost them in the divorce. I mean,
Oh,
I sort of like I didn't like necessarily lose them, but I just kind of like my my kids were still there. It's kind of like no,
yeah.
the dogs
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
belong in that house. They're little dogs. So I got a dog of my own, and you become so bonded to this creature that you get on like a whim, and they become bonded to you. Like we went to some rescue place because my daughter saw online they were advertising this litter of puppies, which was hilariously they called boxer mix. Like, no,
Mhm.
that's a fucking pit bull. That is no boxer mix. But we got there, and I was living in an apartment building at the time, and I couldn't have pit bulls like they had
Yeah.
on the lease. Like there were certain breeds you couldn't have. Although 3 weeks later, some lady moves in with 3 pit bulls. So I don't know if anybody was really paying attention to that. But
Sure.
we're in this rescue place, and there's all these dogs, and this one just kind of had come up to us and was just like really cool and chill and pretty. It's like, that is kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
people are always like, what a good looking dog. And you're like, thank you. I mean, it's,
It
I
feels
mean, it does tend to matter, especially when
yeah,
they're pretty. I mean, if they're sort of like weird looking too, that's charming in a way too. You end up loving them anyway, which is my point.
of
You
course.
randomly pick this creature that then is totally devoted to you. And it is kind
Yes.
of, I talked about this actually on Jim Jeffries' podcast, and they used it as a clip. It's like people are like, we don't deserve dogs. And I'm like, yeah, we do. We made them. Like the reason that they're devoted to us is because we engineered it that way. Like
Yeah.
wolves came up to the fire and we gave them bits of meat, and then we realized, oh shit, this thing will guard us while we sleep.
Sure.
Let's reward the ones that do better guarding, and let's reward the bigger ones and breed the bigger ones with other ones. And you know what? I'd like one with spots. Let's breed some that make spots. It's like it's all they exist because of our needs. They're creatures that are designed to do. My dog is like Great Pyrenees and Border Collie, and the
Yeah.
one thing I feel like I'm letting her down because I do not have livestock for her to guard, because that's all she
Yeah.
wants to do is
Yeah,
just
dude.
guard something and somebody.
I have a 80-pound Doberman that I do not know if she'll protect me. I don't. I think maybe she's popped off a little bit, but she's such a she's the best, and I
Yeah,
bring her
Dobermans are
everywhere.
sweet dogs. My
Sweetest.
aunt had a few Dobermans, and they were really sweet. We went to visit her in Atlanta, and she had just gone to the grocery store. The dog, we couldn't get out of the car because the Doberman got up on the hood and was barking at us. And then she came home and was like, "Get off the car," And then we got out, and then that same dog that was like wouldn't let us out of the car, then followed me around in love with me, and I was about
Yeah.
8 or so, the entire time we were there. Like, just
Yeah.
was such a sweetheart, but just if you're a stranger and you come up, it's like, "Fuck you, you're not getting out of that car." But then the minute you
She'll
get out of the car, she's like, "I love you."
I know, and
Yeah.
that's why she's so incredible. It's also because it's, and I didn't get her ears done, so they just hang, so nobody
Good for
people know
you.
she's a
Good for
well,
you.
why would I put the dog through any
No
discomfort?
shit.
And all the bullshit that people say it's about ear infections. I've had the dog for 8 years.
Bullshit.
She's had 1 ear infection. It's all
Bullshit.
aesthetic.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
It's,
Yeah, and
you know
circumcision is more cleaner. Like, no, not really. Not if you wash your dick, It's it's cosmetic. It's because
Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of glad I got it done. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. I don't
I
know
don't
what it would
care.
have looked like without.
I
But
know. Well,
either way,
I don't care one way or the other, but there are people that are hung up about it, and they're like, you know, I mean, they say like, "Oh, the sensation is so much," and I feel like my parents robbed me of that, and I kind of feel like, look, if sex was like more intense, I would be fucked because it's just like it's pretty good now. So it's like I can't imagine like, oh, I'm really missing out. Like, no, I think orgasms are
dude,
pretty good.
it's the people that just have the hood, have the Darth Maul dick. Like they
Yes.
are the guys
Yes.
that are like, nah, dude, it's way better. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
dude, you got a weird dick. All right,
They're
there's
not
nothing
they're
wrong with
not
it.
doing they're not doing them much anymore. They don't do them like I'm not Jewish or anything, but I'm circumcised just like by matter of course. It's just like
Yeah,
every boy baby, they're like, "Well, you're getting circumcised, right?" "Yeah, sure, of course." And they
yeah.
don't do it anymore. Now you almost kind of have to ask for it, with boy babies.
Okay,
You're like you
number
have to
two.
make a point to be like, "No, no, snip them."
Yeah, can I get mine to look like that one on the board? Okay. I was thinking, because my buddy Avery, who has been on the podcast before, Avery Pearson, funny comic. Him and his wife are like not new age, but they were like, we're gonna let our sons decide, and I'm like, they're never gonna get it done.
No
No.
way.
No one's gonna
No.
decide
You don't get it
at
after
like
the fact. No, it's you do it. The kid's still got to be wet to do it because no. Who's going to put themselves except for Elvis? Elvis got it late because he had a
no way.
yeah he was uncircumcised and he was upset by the look of it, but also too apparently it made like it was his foreskin was attached in such a way that it made erections painful. Like it was like too attached on one side, so it would sort of, it wouldn't just slide down the shaft nicely. It would sort of like get caught up. This is what I've heard. So he did get circumcised later in life as an adult, and
Oh
and
my
that does
God.
happen. But I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
No. Actually, what's funny to segue? It's like, how do you get back to the record of talking about Elvis's dick? Here's how you get back to it. The last song here it is. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain was the last song Elvis played before he died.
No shit.
Yes.
Wow.
In the early morning of August 16th, 1977, he played it on his piano in Graceland, and then later that day he died from the overdose of prescription drugs, which I
Wow.
wrote about it. I just wrote like such a lovely song. It was funny as I was going through, because I want to go through some of the tracks. As I was going through them, the same descriptive words kept coming up: sweet, lovely. And this is solely just on the way it sounded. It's like these are the first initial reactions to hearing it, and then everything changed because as you'd read the lyrics, you'd be like, wow, like dark,
Yeah.
mysterious. It's like let's talk about the opening. Let's just go right from the beginning of this, or Time of the Preacher. So it opens. This is the introductory track. It describes a man who was abandoned by his love and sets off on a journey to rediscover meaning and purpose. The Western style of the instrumentation, as well as the cover art, is enough to situate the story geographically. And the final verses names the time, which is 1901. Have you ever, I wanted to, this is kind of a two-part question. Have you ever gone on like a vision quest? Have you ever gone on a quest where you're like, I need to get away. I just need to like find myself in a sense.
No, I'm
Never?
not. No, I'm not like that. I mean, I've done hallucinogens, but that was for fun. It wasn't like, and they were revelatory in a certain way, and because I was young, and what they did kind of teach me, and I would do them usually in a group with other funny people.
I've taken mushrooms with. There used to be a party in 4th of July that a lot of comics were at, and there'd be like Kumail Nanjiani before he got buff, and Pete Holmes
Yeah,
and Nate Craig, and it was such a great. These are all great comedic minds. You obviously have worked with some of. I mean, in my opinion, the Robert Smigel and
yeah,
Conan O'Brien.
yeah.
Did you ever take mushrooms with them and psychedelics with
No,
them?
no, no,
Oh,
no.
damn it!
Conan
Damn
has
it!
never done any. No, Conan was. He's never done anything like
Square.
that. And I don't think, I mean, yeah, they're not big. Nobody from the Conan years of my life are big partiers. Like they're all pretty uh they're all good boys, that like
Sure.
to get their kicks and they're rebels by being funny. Like Robert Smigel is fucking punk rock, but he's not getting drunk. Um
Wow.
But I mean, punk rock in the sense
Yeah.
of his
No, no, no.
comedy.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
The Triumph, the insult
yeah.
dog. I
That
mean,
is,
is the most punk rock. Like
yes,
that's the beginning of Man on the Street,
yeah.
and not just Man on the Street, but like literally, if he did it, he might get punched. But because it's the dog, it's South Park. It's South
genius.
Park.
It's a
Yeah.
genius gimmick. And the shittier the puppet looks, and the more like like the paw with the something, like props on it just
Yeah.
coming in from 6 feet away. It
Sure.
all works so great. But no, these were like friends back in Chicago. These are like improv friends, but still some of the funniest fucking people in the world.
Sure.
And what those times would reveal to me were like new ways to be funny and sort of like new facets of myself, not even necessarily as a performer, but just because we would do improv. Basically we do bits with each other, but like roaring, screaming. I went to film school and then did improv afterwards. And for a while, I would have parties that would be film school kids and improv kids. And the film school kids would always be like, "Why are they so loud?" Like I'd be like, like kids with black, Cure fans with like
Yeah.
black fingernail polish. Why are they so loud? And I'm like, because it's called joy. Um, eh, but that was like the way that's what that revealed to me. It didn't reveal to me, I got a universe in my thumbnail kind of stuff. And the
Yeah.
vision quest kind of thing, I have therapy for that. I mean,
Sure.
I've been in therapy
Sure.
forever, and that's the thing that gives me progress, and that's the thing that reveals things to me. The only time I've ever gone away by myself is to get something written. You know what I mean? Like
You had a deadline, or you just were
yeah,
working
or
on
just
something and you really wanted to be
or even
away
just
from
like a
everybody.
self-imposed deadline of like, I want to
Sure.
get this fucking pilot written. I'm going to a
Sure.
hotel for a couple of days.
All right, so let me flip the script on this, because this was this. If you didn't, which I love that answer too, but I want to talk about. Let's talk about the start of a journey that you're offered the job as a writer on Conan.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea that was going to change your life? Like what just set that up, because if I read which is true, because from the Wikipedia, is that you're brought on stage to test the lighting, because Robert Smigel brings you, because you work
Yeah.
with him. Set it up for me. I don't want to fuck this up.
No, it's
So
okay. I had been doing improv. I had done some shows. Like we started a show in Chicago that went to New York and then to LA. And while I was in New York doing that show, a couple of friends of mine got onto Saturday Night Live for a season or two. And I met Robert through them, just kind of, like hanging out basically. And then when I went to LA to continue that show, Robert came to LA and looked me up, and then we hung out, we drove drunk, basically. I think I did the driving. But he came out, he was out here writing the ill-fated Hans and Franz movie, which
I didn't know there was gonna.
yeah,
Damn it!
they put the kibosh on it because Arnold was going to be like their mentor, like even like some sort of godlike figure. But this movie, Last Action Hero, bombed, and Arnold decided I can't make fun of myself anymore. I can't, do jokes about my identity. So the whole thing just went away because Arnold pulled
dude,
out of it.
That would have ruled, because one of my favorite, and I think and you obviously know him, Kevin Nealon is one of my favorite people.
He's great.
And he's so great, and he's so funny. And for him to have finally a movie that he's not just some, not background, just the supporting cast. Let him be the star. It would
one of the buddies in the buddy comedy. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And Robert told I don't remember them, but Robert told me some of the things that he wanted to do, and it would have been really fucking funny. It would have been really, really good. But he said that they just couldn't get it done. So I met him there. Then Conan, who had worked on SNL with Robert, also during a writer strike had gone to Chicago, and they did a live show. Bob Odenkirk, Robert, and Conan did this live show in Chicago. Then after that, he left SNL and went to The Simpsons, and Robert was at SNL still. Then the Letterman job came open. Lorne picked Conan to run the show, and he said, I want you to run this show. And Conan said, no, I want to be the host. And I think he just pestered Lorne and just would not take no for an answer. And Lorne said, all right, you can be the host. And also, coincidentally too, they had the network had all these other ideas, Greg Kinnear being one. They filmed a couple test shows, which you'll never see because apparently he shat the bed really bad.
Really?
Yeah. They are like, Conan, we'll get Greg Kinnear. And then we know, like, oh, Greg Kinnear's doing test shows. And then they're like, it's not going to be Greg Kinnear. I'm like, oh, well, it must have not gone well. So Conan gets the job to host. He says, Robert, write the show with me, run the show with me. And so Robert came in to do that. And I got a call from Robert just saying, hey, and I'd heard, David Letterman's replacement is this Simpsons writer named Conan O'Brien. And I had seen like the clips on the news, and in fact, went with Kate Flannery, who plays Meredith on I'll drop all the names just because.
No, drop the names, but also she's been on the podcast.
Oh, she has.
Kate
Flannery.
Did she come on?
She was in my first improv class. Like,
wow.
Yeah, we've been friends and, co-workers since, well, what would that have been? Like 1989, 90, something like that. So I was in LA. I was in LA doing the movie Cabin Boy, because after we did these live shows, I got a part in Cabin Boy and moved back to LA. To like, that was what I was going to be in LA now and be an actor. Jeff Garland was doing a sitcom pilot where he played like a sort of like a Ralph Cramden kind of cop thing. It was like a live or a multi-camera sitcom. So Kate and I go to see the filming of that pilot, and Jeff's an old friend of mine, and we sit in front of Bob Odenkirk, who I had known because he was engaged to a woman that had been on an improv team of mine. But I didn't know him beyond that. I just knew him like, oh, he's a very funny guy. He wrote for SNL, and him and Carol Leifer sat behind me and Kate and talked almost exclusively about Conan and this deal. And I just sat there soaking it all up, eavesdropping on, on this whole thing. And then, like, within a week, Robert calls me and says, hey, I'm head writing this show. Do you want to come and, want to submit and be a writer? And I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And I'd never packet for a late night show. I had never done. So I just was like, oh, I don't know. I'll sit down like I desk bit. I think I even said like, well, what do I, and she's like, well, there's desk bits. Oh, right. Desk bits. Yes, of course. And write sketches. But he's like, right, whatever, like and I mean, and that was, and long story short, I got the job. And when I got there, I was the first writer hired. There was like, in that our whole floor, there was like 4 or 5 other people. And I really was like, they were just picking office, like empty office after empty office. And I just picked the one next door to Conan's because it was like, I was like, I don't, like I want to be close to people, like I don't want to just be off at this quiet end of the hall. And then my first job there was I was given a stack of submissions at least 2 feet high, and just told, go through there and find other writers. And I watched Robert do it. Robert read every word of every submission, which I found very admirable, because you can read some of them. You'll read halfway down the first page, you're like, oh my God, fuck this guy,
Yeah.
But I was going to be a good boy, and I was going to follow his lead. Like I say, I really did admire it, and I read through every single one, and that was my first job. Boy, before I thought of anything for the show, was pick some more people to write it for us. And I will tell you, out of that 2 or 3 foot stack, I found one that I felt
really. And
Robert told me, be brutal. And I was brutal, and I found one, and he's a very funny guy. And we filled out the writing staff to be an amazing group of very funny guys. Most of them performers too. Like a Chicago Boston kind of split, which was ironic, because then he and I were, like it was like Chicago improv-y and then Boston stand-up-y. And Robert, well, we had months, we had a couple of months, and we just were writing stuff and pre-taping bits and figuring out how to do this. And it got down to where we were going to start doing shows and test shows. And the first step was that they just took him onto 8H and they put him on kind of a set of flats, and they were lighting him. Just, I mean, really, like here's a ball and here's a net, kind of thing. And, but no pressure, just that's the ball and that's the net. And Robert, and I was, I had it on in my office. You have the feed in your office, and I had it on, and I saw him down there. And Robert called me and said, hey, will you go downstairs? Will you go down there and keep him company? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I didn't even like question it, because I knew like Conan needs to be kept company,
Sure.
Like he runs at such a high cycle that like having to sit there and just have them slowly light him, like we all knew, like, no, that's going to make him nuts. Like, so, and he and I already had like a thing going. Like we already had bits that we were doing for everybody, more so than anybody else, like he has bits with everybody to this day. Like that's, most of his work relationships are bit driven, So I went and sat with him. Then the next test show, where he was like doing sort of a fake interview with one of the PAs, Robert was like, go sit out there with him too, and I didn't realize it, but I'm being tried out for the sidekick role. And because there was no pressure, and he told me, do whatever you want, I did whatever I wanted. And I chimed in and stuff, and, Conan enjoyed it, and he liked me, and he liked having me there. And then it just built until, before we were doing actual test shows with an audience, Robert asked me, do you want to be the sidekick? Or, if we have a sidekick, do you want to do it? And I was like, well, because we had these, ambitious notions that we would be a hybrid sketch talk show, and that there'd be like a cast of characters that would, or a cast of players that would be doing sketches every day, which was ridiculous. We were so stupid. You cannot do that. That's way too much fucking work.
I bet.
And so I was like, well, I don't know, maybe I want to be one of the players, And he said, well, okay, think about it. And I also, at the time, I was engaged, and I was like, I got to talk to my fiance about it. And he said, "Well, let me know." And he like left my office, and like, the second he was out the door, I was like, "Who am I fucking kidding? This guy just said, 'Do you want to be on TV every night?'" And I'm
Yeah.
going, "Well, let me think about it." So
I don't
I called
know.
my fiance and said, "Hey, I'm going to be the sidekick on the show." She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, great." And then I went and I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'll do it." So it started from there. We did about, I don't, it was 2 weeks of test shows. It wasn't, 10 of them. They were kind of, there was a couple spaced out and everything. But after the last one, or maybe the next to last one, Jeff Ross, our producer, told both of us, we were getting ready to go out, and he said, leave your show clothes on because you're going out to dinner with Lorne. And we're like, oh, okay. So we left on, they bought me like 2 sport coats, and I was wearing, like ties from SNL's wardrobe,
Sure.
like their vault of ties. And so we get in Lauren's car with his driver. He drives us to a restaurant, Beche. I remember the name, on the Upper East Side. We go in, they lead us to a table, and it's Lauren and Steve Martin. And
Oh, wow.
and and then which I said maybe 4 words during the whole meal. But we had just sat and listened, and Conan talked. And I couldn't believe I'm sitting across. I mean, Lorne Michaels, it was already impressive enough to sit across from Lorne Michaels, but I had met him by that time a few times. He's,
Sure.
not hung out or anything, but said hello. But there's fucking Steve Martin right there, and just whoa. And and then the next day, Jeff Ross said, "Well, I guess you got the job." And I was like, I thought I had the job. I didn't realize. And I do think it was like kind of good that I was not aware that I was being judged,
That it. Yeah.
that I was in an audition, because it really did. I was able to just be me. And but I mean, that's my instinct anyway, is to kind of like, I have in my work life, I don't have it in the rest of my life, and I wish I did. I can take like, I can sort of wall off nervousness and anxiety, and go like, look, I think it's I got pretty bad ADD, and I think there's something where when the pressure's on, I can almost hyper focus, because I'm like, I got to turn all that shit off, because I
Yeah. Yeah.
know it's not going to help. And that's just sort of grown from there. But it was good that I didn't have that. And Robert always told me, I'd be like, well, what do you want me to do? And he's like, anything you want. Follow your instincts. You're funny. If you want to say something, be funny. And about 2 months in, there was a little bit like, turn it down just a little bit, like give him a little more room.
Yeah.
He's learning, you're learning, but give him a little more room, because and it was, and he said, you're doing fine. Like, because I was like, is it bad what I'm doing? He's like, no, it's just leave him a
Yeah.
little more elbow room to sort of. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So, and then it just went on, from there.
When was the moment? When was the moment that you were like, "Oh, this is like, was there?" You said there were bits that you guys ran. That's how you had the friendship, or that's what Conan. Because I had heard before too, which is I heard somebody, there would be like an intern, and he'd meet all the interns. He'd go up to one of them and be like, "I know you're stealing from me," and then like, at the end of the summer when that intern's leaving, he wouldn't talk to him again, but he'd go up and go, I know you stole. Like, he knows, like.
No, he
And
has.
I
Yeah.
and I had met him. I met him through Bill. Well, I met him twice. I met him in New York at a restaurant once, but I met him through Bill when Bill did the Forum, and we all jammed together because Conan plays guitar, and he
Yeah.
was just the nicest, and he was so funny and likable. What was that first bit that you guys had that really, you said that kept that friendship? Like, do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, it was just no, I mean,
Yeah,
the one that I remember mostly is that, like, like you said, Conan's a great guy, but he's unique. Like, he is like having a hyperactive child around because he just doesn't stop. And there were times when I'd sort of like step outside myself, years into it when we were doing the show at TBS, we're at, in the monologue meeting, all the monologue writers are sitting there, and our executive producer, head writer, and we're just sitting in, like, we might be like just waiting for a piece to come in or something, but people be on their phones reading the newspaper. And then over in the corner, the guy whose name is on the show is going, boop, 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 beep, beep, boop, talking to himself, saying, you're murderers. You're all murderers. You're all out to murder me. Just babbling. And we're all so used to it that I would just look and I'd be like, everyone's just, it really is like having a little kid. Because if you have, I don't know if you guys are parents, but if you have a little kid that's like a stream of consciousness babbler, it becomes white noise. You're just like, oh yeah, he's over there making duck noises and talking to an invisible duck or whatever. And that was kind of the way he was. And he used to come up, he's always, he had before that just had started teaching himself guitar, and he's an excellent guitarist. But it also serves him too, like, to practice guitar, like to play a lick over and over and over and over and over. Like that's like almost like a rosary beads, he learns that way. And it's kind of suits, like I say, this RPM that he runs at. And he used to, you'd be sitting at your desk trying to write something, trying to think of a bit for the show. And this is, like I say, before we're on the air. And he would walk up with his guitar and just stand there next to you and play at you and like making faces and stuff. And, we all would whisper to each other, like, I don't know what to do during that time. It's like an Italian restaurant and the violinist comes up. He's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to react. So he did, when he would do it to me, I would go, woo, yeah, and get up and start dancing and clapping and be like, it's a hootenanny, everybody, woohoo! Because, which is just basic improv, yes, and, but
sure,
it's just like, but I was just like, because it is weird. It's weird when somebody that you don't even know that well. Like we all were just getting to know each other. We don't know this guy. And now we're saddled to him, and he's going to take us wherever we're going. And he comes up and starts playing, like a rockabilly song, and like, or a Beatles song. And you're like, okay, I'm actually was busy writing something for you. But if you want to serenade me, okay. So it was just stuff like that. And I just kind of, from our first meeting, we met at Junior's Deli. Robert set it up. We had lunch at Junior's Deli, and I ordered knish and borscht. I didn't mean to make it like, like some sort of Yiddish joke or something. It's just I like knishes and I like borscht. And Conan ordered a Coke. He had a can of Coke. But the knish came, and it's a big round, dough
knish
ball, with like a knot on the top. And like when they set it down, and I just met him, and I was like, oh fuck, man, that looks like a tit, and I could tell he was like, it's like one would normally say, like, yeah, don't say that looks like a tit within the first 10 minutes of a job interview. But I just kind of got a sense, like, oh, this guy, this
guy's cool.
I might as well be the thing that I am. So, and then we just started, like, that lunch was just all like excitedly doing bits with each other, and talking about the waitress and inventing a backstory for her. And Robert told me that after I left, Conan called him immediately and said, hire him. And Robert was like, he hasn't written anything yet. Let's see the packet. So, and I guess the packet was good enough for Robert. So
I love that, man. Yeah. It's those kind of connections it's like that you had with Conan, like I had with my buddy Angelo, and then bringing it back to that fucking documentary. That's what that thing I saw last night was about, these two musicians that just got each other.
You gel. Yeah.
You gel, and you don't get many of those in a lifetime. You get maybe two, but if you're lucky if you get one.
Yeah.
and it showed, and it really did show, and that's
And
why I think
they
the
don't,
show.
Lennon and McCartney aren't Lennon and McCartney for very long,
No.
I mean, they're not, you got Keith and Mick, but Keith and Mick, you know, they sort of live separate lives at this point,
Sure, yeah.
They're just keeping it together for the kids. But so to have it last too is the other thing, is to have a professional friendship pairing that lasts, because you can burn real bright. And I mean, and there were, we had our ups and downs personally, and there was definitely time, people would say, they still kind of say, but they used to say, like, do you guys hang out? And I'm like, yeah, at work. We're like together. We're
Yeah,
together for
sure.
hours and hours and hours at work. So like, yeah, we don't go to dinner a lot. We did, and we do, but just not a lot. We both parent, kids and wives and families, and lives and other friends.
No, I love it. I mean, it was, in my opinion, it's still like it was the late night show of my generation, of that, like the grunge and like the mid 90s, which the Generation X, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just, and it sticks with us, where it's like you can go back and watch old Carson and maybe see an interview or two and be like, and you're like, yeah, it's funny, and you're not even gonna laugh.
It's
but
really slow. It's
sure,
really slow.
It's really slow. And Letterman, you can watch some of his stuff because Letterman's Letterman. But there is something about the initial Conan O'Brien, when you're at that 12:30 spot, that was just so original. Like you said, dude, it's like having it's like the Mr. Show with Bob and David talk show. It's like this genius of like these different, the alt, I hate calling it alt comedy, because it's all just what comedy in a sense became.
Yeah.
You guys set the trend, and then everything went in that direction. It's still the best.
Yeah,
Still
it's
the best,
just
man.
it was just good, I mean, and I said this as we were winding up, and I'm not normally, I don't lend I'm not normally grandiose or make boastful things, but I do feel like it is just pound for pound the funniest of all the late night shows that have ever been, just in terms of just pure funny. And I, and I'm so glad that it matters to people in that way. And yeah, it was, my 19-year-old daughter, who, I have two older kids and then a younger one, and my two older kids, they don't give a shit about my work, and nor do I want them to necessarily. I mean, it'd be weird if like my kids were a fan of, it'd just be weird. Like, you're not supposed to be a fan of your dad. I don't even believe in all this, like, my dad's my hero. Like, whoa, why? Yeah, aim higher, buddy. Yeah,
dude.
But my daughter just, I mean, not too long ago, I was on the phone with her, and she's like, the other day I kind of stumbled across an old Conan bit, and she goes, and then I just, started clicking through and watching, and she goes like, that was a really funny show. I was like, yeah, it was a pretty funny show. But I mean, that's about it. Like, I don't need anything more than that. Like, that was so huge to me that she, watched a few of the old bits and was like, that's funny,
Yeah. And those are the years, the late night NBC years, man. Did it feel like I know the network execs obviously are watching, but compared to like when you moved to the Tonight Show or when you moved to TBS, like you guys had your like were they weren't as critical, I can assume, so you could really have fun with it because you're the late night show.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah, definitely. We pretty much did what we wanted. I mean, there's
Exactly,
and you would find what was too far, and I didn't, and none of us had, like, you don't have the time to be pushing like I am going to make fun of Jesus. It's like, no, there's other things to make fun of. You don't, like, why ask for that trouble? Because it's like, I don't care. You want to love Jesus, whatever. I'll make fun of something else. And
Sure.
and so it wasn't like we were always wanting to push the envelope of like what you could do. If any envelope we wanted to push, and just was like weirdness, and just absurdity. That was always kind of what we wanted to do, because, and I think this goes for most of the people on the show, like my quality control level meter has always been, well, that's not boring, because there's so much comedy and stuff that I'm like, no, that's boring. That's boring. And then it's like, oh, with that different weird ending on it, that's not boring. That's actually kind of funny and good. And just
Yeah.
because there's, like we talked about earlier about music, there's nothing new. I mean, you're always just kind of, we were two white guys in suits with a band with horns, like that was, we were not groundbreaking, um except for the fact that we were weird, and they didn't understand a lot of it. And early on, there were fucking assholes. There were just people from the network who are just, like, I, if a show was a baby, they'd kill it. They'd like leave it in the yard and it would die overnight. They just didn't have any understanding of like, no, you're not helping at all. Like, if you want this show to be good or people to watch it, you're actually, you make us feel bad about ourselves. You have stupid suggestions that are lame and like everything else. You're just wrong, and you're an asshole about it.
Give me the worst, because we always say, well, like, what's the best review you ever got? What was the worst review they ever gave you? And then what was one of their shittiest ideas?
Well, it's two different things. I mean, reviews, there was one.
You know what I meant?
Yeah.
Notes.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, notes.
Really,
yeah. There was one, and I wasn't even a part of it. It happened after the show, and Conan told me about it. But we did a show, and this is fairly early on, and there was one of the LA guys who, like, and at the time it was coming from Chicago to New York, it always bugged the shit out of me, but he never wore socks. He wore like dress shoes, but without socks. And that was just like, now you see that more, it's more a thing that people do. But at the time,
still nuts.
It just seemed like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, put on some
foot
fucking
in
socks.
A leather.
Yes,
a foot in a leather loafer.
Yes.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah. And your family must exit the room every time you take off your shoes,
Yeah.
But, and he was just a douche. Like, he had written, he wrote like one episode of Mary Tyler Moore, and that was his claim to fame. And then he was Don Ohlmeyer's buddy. So he just kind of was along for this ride. I don't even remember his name. But he was in town to see the show, and it was still kind of early, and we were finding our way. And we did a show, and it was a really good show. It was really funny. The guests were good. I don't know I don't remember the particulars, but I remember us going, fuck yeah, that was great. That was awesome. To each other, actually talking about it. Like, what a great show. That was awesome. You did great. So did you. Yeah. Well, okay. Conan takes off the microphone, goes into his room. This guy's sitting there, and the guy says, like, what was that shit? What the fuck was that? He's like, this show has no energy. There's nothing to watch on this show. It's fucking boring. He's like, you got to get up. You got to run into the audience. You got to show some energy. Like, that was his only note, was run into the audience. and Conan, like, I saw him afterwards, and he was like murderous, like, just could have fucking killed this guy. But we're in no position to tell this guy to fuck himself, because at that point we could have been. And I mean, they tried. They basically, like I said before, they tried to cancel us a few times, but they just didn't have anyone else to go in the spot. And then we just kept going forward and kept. They'd set a ratings goal, we would meet it. Then they'd set another ratings goal, and we would meet it. And then they started fucking with us by saying things like, well, yeah, sure, you're beating Tom Snyder by wider and wider margins, who is our, direct competition. Yeah. But that show's a lot cheaper. So like, yeah, you get higher ratings, but you're too expensive. So we're gonna fire the band. We're gonna fire the band, and we're gonna play recorded music. And we were like fucking terrified. And this is possibly Jeff Ross's greatest call ever. At the
What?
time, our reruns were he's our not Jeffrey Ross,
Yeah.
but Jeff Ross,
No,
our
no, yeah,
executive
yeah, yeah,
producer.
yeah, yeah.
At the time, our reruns were doing about as well as our live shows. People were really finding the show, and the audience was growing. So Jeff said, well, Fridays are not that high a rating anyway. Or no, it was Mondays. He's like, why don't we just take Mondays off and put a rerun in on Monday? I mean, because they love reruns, because that's just pure profit. You've already covered the cost of making the show. When you do it again, it's just pure profit. And I think it's more money for the affiliates too. I think the affiliates get they get the ad money from that, and it's more money for them too. So he's like, why don't we just do we'll do Tuesday through Friday. And they were like, okay, yeah, that's a good savings. And it was like, like it was just strengthening the comedy gene pool, because instead of 5 sacks of bits that we had to make, we only had 4 sacks of bits. Because you'd get to Wednesday, Thursday, Act 3, and it'd be there. Sometimes I was like, well, this is just because we got to put something up. We're not happy about it. We're not real proud of this bit either, but here it is,
Get the masturbating bear out again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. All of that shit was just like, there was so many of those things, robot on the toilet, pimp bot 5,000. It was all just like, yeah. And then like, there will be a middle act of comedy where just Pimp Bot comes out and tells us who's going to be on tomorrow night's show. It's just basically, which, you could just go, hey, tomorrow night it's Shelley Winters.
Sure.
And, but so we would make a comedy act out of it with this. And then it just became, that was one of our refillable things, as opposed to,
coming up with something.
Yeah. Or, showing pictures from the paper and going, look at this thing, it was just more silliness and more characters and more costumes.
Oh my God. What was, because I know we got to wrap it up, but what was because you said this one episode, this was, you were like, we were on fire, whatever. Do you have a favorite episode? I know it was a long, there's a lot to choose from, but do you have one where you were like, God damn, you don't?
I mean, well, first of all, there's so many of them. I know. I mean, I'm in the position where I can watch myself. I can watch myself in a bit, in a costume, like on a location, and have no recollection of doing it whatsoever.
Wow.
Because I've literally been a part of, and I say this, feeling, and I don't like blessed, because I don't believe in God. So, but I don't know of a better, lucky. I feel so lucky and privileged that I have been part of thousands and thousands of hours of television. So it's so much that, like, I remember pieces of things. I remember bits of shows. I remember, a lot of times when we would go on the road, those were usually really good shows, because rather than it just like being a Wednesday and we're going to do a show, it was like, no, it's a Wednesday in Dallas. So we're going to do Dallas stuff, or it's Atlanta and we're going to do Atlanta or Chicago or Boston or wherever. Those shows tended to be pretty good. We used to do shows at Comic-Con, but those were that whole thing is such a publicity thing that those were not. Those were kind of, and then he'd have to interview like 12 cast members of a Marvel movie and make sure everybody talked in front of 3,000 people. It was big and splashy, but they weren't like the best shows.
Sure.
But the end of the last 2 weeks, because COVID shut us down, and then we started doing the show from Largo, this little theater, Largo, and
I remember,
and we first were doing it to an empty house, and then we filled the house with cardboard cutouts of fans. Fans would send in full frame, full photos of themselves, and we'd make cardboard cutouts and fill the audience with flat audience members. And then the last 2 weeks, everything had kind of gotten to a point where we could have vaccinated audiences. And so the last 2 weeks of the show, we had audiences, and those shows those felt really fantastic. Because
I can imagine.
It was so nice. It was just, I mean, it was like it was like going to your own funeral, kind of, where, and, like just people saying nice stuff about you. And just that whole month, strangers, friends, people that I'd worked with for literally 30 years would come up to tell me basically, I love you and here's why. And I'm so happy that I got to work with you all these years,
Yeah.
it was just stunning. The whole end process, and the shows were really fucking funny and really, really full of love and celebration and really great.
Yeah, it's like I said, I could go on and on, but I've already said it. It's just I'm so glad that you were my Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon, and because it was it's me and Jeremiah. Like it's just what we grew up on.
Yeah.
And it's like the reason, I think one of the main reasons I'm a comic. It's actually one of the few things that really upsets me, because I was so close with getting on as a comic, because I met Conan here in New York. I think I was 16, 17 years old. And we were at a restaurant trying to find something to eat, and we saw him, and then he gets up to go to the bathroom. And I was like, I got to go meet him, which is a horrible place to meet anybody, is in a bathroom.
Right.
But luckily at 17, at 17, it was, I hadn't really done hard drugs yet. So I still looked 14, 15, not like now where I'm 40, but I look 55. And I'm peeing, he's peeing, and I just go, I was like, and he's done, he's washed his hand. I go, Mr. O'Brien. He turns, he's like, what? And then he sees up this young kid, and he goes, hey, what's up, buddy? And I was like, dude, I want to be a comic, and more than anything, I just want to be on your show because it rules. And he was like, well, you're gonna be. And I was like, thanks. And I was like, tell Andy I said hello. So did he ever say?
I don't remember.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it. Just lie.
Yeah. I mean, well, when a 14-year-old kid has his dick in his hand and is saying, tell your friend I said hi, maybe you don't pass that on, just in case. Who knows? What the connotations could be.
Oh man. All right, here, let's wrap this up. This has been so much fun. Please come back on, because we have so many more records, and we got to find more for you.
Yeah.
So just to go over just some of the accolades that Willie has done. He's got so many. In 1993, inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, received the Kennedy Center honor, added to the Library of Congress National Recording Registry. Rolling Stone included him in the 100 Greatest Singers and 100 Greatest Guitarists of all time. He's a member of the National Agricultural Hall of Fame. He's won 11 Grammy Awards, 49 nominations, 11 CMAs, or no, that's not CMA, Country Music Association Awards, 11 American Music Awards, 10 Academy of Country Music Awards. And he's also the first recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the CMA. I'm surprised he's not been in the rock. Is he in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Jeremiah, check that out. I'd be shocked.
I bet he probably is.
He has to be.
Yeah.
If Dolly Parton just got in, I know she was like, well, I don't deserve to be in it. But if she's in,
well, but the whole notion of it being the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is like it's sort
bullshit.
of. It should just be the popular music hall.
Thank you.
The Hall of Fame of popular music. I mean, and who gives a shit?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I actually vote on it. I vote because of I started doing it 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, so you get these here. I got them right here. The first one I got. This was this year. So you get like a little like ballot, and then it's just like a breakdown of everybody. So it'll be like Dave Matthews Band.
Oh wow!
And then you read about their accolades, and on the back there's a little thing, and then you like rip it off.
And who makes that first grouping? Like who chooses the nominees?
I don't know. I from my understanding, it's because it's like the same thing with like sports. I think it's like if it's 25 years past your first record or something, you get
right
in the running. But then I don't know what we already get about. When we get the thing, we've already gotten about, I think there's like 14 or 15. Well, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
He was voted in last year, by the way, 2020.
He was.
Oh, okay, good.
So you get about like I think about 15 choices, and you're supposed to choose 5. and then they do it like if you get 70% of the vote or something like that. And I mean, one of the guys that writes on this show he's made so many great points. He said the same thing you said, shouldn't be called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, should be called something totally different, popular music, but also it's very, very based on the head guys, the publisher of Rolling Stone magazine and a few other
Jan Wenner.
And like what he thinks is cool, like he doesn't think Kiss is cool, so Kiss, who should have been in years before, like it took forever, and Depeche Mode and The Cure, and like it's not fair. There's the Monkees should be in there. There's so many that deserve it. And look, I vote on it because the guy from Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, I think he wanted to pad the people that were voting on it.
Yeah.
So he was like, hey, you got a music podcast, you want to do it? And I was like, sure. And so, it's cool to be like, a part of it and to vote on it. But dude, I mean, I'm still learning about music. That's why I do this podcast. So
yeah. Well, it's those award things are always they're always like it's a weird thing. I mean, because it's like it matters, but it doesn't matter, It
doesn't.
And
Right.
and it's because it's like with the Emmys is the same thing. It's like and I just started, it's like if you win an Emmy. Well, I should say most of the time you sit there and whoever wins an Emmy or an Oscar, I would say, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the time, I'm like, oh, come on. And then, but like, if I was to win an Emmy, I'd be like, well, now they're right. You know what I mean? It's like they only matter, and they're only, like righteous if you agree. And it's even more ridiculous with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because it's like it is like, hey, quiet. Sorry, the dogs thinks an intruder is coming. The whole notion of like kids used to say like, who rocks harder? And like this whole thing is kind of like, it's like adults going, who rocks harder? And it's like, I don't know, like, no, Judas Priest rocks way harder than Iron Maiden. And it's like, and like, yeah, you could have that conversation, but is it really worth it? Does it really matter?
It's so funny that you just said those two artists, because Judas Priest just got in on like I don't think they got voted in. I think they got in on like a
fan vote,
special, not a fan vote, yes, but more like something that, because like MC5 got it this year, which I've talked about it all the time, and I'll keep praising it. They used a quote from our podcast from Kim Thale from Soundgarden talking about MC5.
Oh, awesome.
In the package, which is like the coolest shit ever. But Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson's like, fuck you guys. He's like, dude, dude, I just saw them in Brooklyn. They sold out an arena like 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
Like they're a huge band. They're one of the biggest metal bands of all time.
Yeah.
Put them in the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like you're telling me, like, look, if and nothing against like Cher or Mary J. Blige or any like, or even Ozzy Osbourne, who already got in with Black Sabbath. It's like, just, make him just throw more people in. Why does it be so fucking like,
right?
I don't know. It's all bullshit, but
and it's also like picked by old people. That's the other thing. The Academy, the Emmys, it's all fucking old people, old men specifically,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the old man awards, they all are. They're like, what old people like. It kind of takes a little of the shine off it, but it was fun. 100%. Thanks so much, guys.
My pleasure. Here, let's wrap this up. I did want to say this one quote, because I did pull up. I thought this was so interesting about Willie Nelson, because I found like 11 interesting facts. It said in 1970, Willie once ran into a house fire to save his guitar, trigger, and a bag of weed. And that makes me love him. He says it was a bag of primo Colombian pot. God bless his soul, dude.
Yeah.
91, and he's still out there performing. He's still, that's something that he's a guy that like I really want to go see live now. Like I'm really gonna make you know, do you go to concerts a lot, Andy, at all,
Not
or
so
no?
not as much as I used to, but Willie is the person who by far I have seen the most number of times.
Really?
It
Oh,
has to
wow.
be at least 20.
Oh my God.
Because even when I was a kid, he used to play the Illinois State Fair, and we would go, and every year we would go because half of my dad's side of the family is from Springfield, which is the town that is the capital, and that's where the state fair was. So I would see him as a kid. Then whenever he would play locally, we would see him. It was like a concert I would go, that I could go with my parents. And then as an adult, I just started to, I started to go. He used to play in Manhattan all the time. I don't remember. There was a club that was like, I want to say on like 18th or 19th between 5th and 6th Avenues.
I'm trying to think.
Maybe it was like south of Limelight, like a few blocks down from Limelight, and in the middle of the between 5th and 6th Avenue.
It's
I don't
funny.
remember the name of it.
Limelight now is like a pizza place.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
The biggest rave nightclub and basically started the American rave scene in a sense is now like a place to get pizza.
Huge.
Brick oven.
How is it just it's the whole
It's a
place
little
is
no, it's just like, but there's the church and then there's just a little sign that's like Limelight Pizza. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Is it Lone Star Cafe? Is that where it was? He used to play?
That could have been. Yeah, but he used to they used to have all kinds of different there is different kind of music that would play there, but he used to play there, and I used to see so many weird like weird people just be up on stage you wouldn't even know about. Like one year there was a guy that looked like a complete maniac who was playing along with penny whistles. And it'd be like, and Willie'd be like, give that, go ahead, Jerry. And then he'd play like, he had 2 penny whistles and he would play like different melodies on the 2 different penny whistles. And he was like really amazing at penny whistles. But I just would have this feeling like that's like some maniac that just like brought him a bunch of weed. And Willie's like, yeah, sure, come on.
Get up there.
Get up there, come on. And then he always used to stand outside on whatever 17th Street or whatever street it was outside his bus and say hello to everybody until there was nobody left to say hello to.
I love that.
Yeah.
He does seem like did he ever do Conan? Did he
sure.
Did you ever get
Absolutely.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did you get to talk to him?
Oh, yeah. I even got to do one of the when I was on the Leno Tonight Show, he was the musical guest. And they wanted to do like a funny bumper. So the funny bumper would be, coming up. There was somebody on before me and I was the middle guest. And it was like, like in the bumper, like coming up next, Andy Richter. And they wanted me coming out of Willie's tour bus and Willie, behind me waving and then a ton of smoke coming out.
Sure. Sure. Yeah,
so, and so I got to go just go sit in his tour bus while they set it up. And they put up foam core to kind of trap the smoke so his whole bus didn't get filled up with, movie smoke, not smoke. But that, like going onto the bus and it was a nice bus and sitting down at like a little, little banquet table. Like when you go into that bus, it was like putting a bag of weed on your face.
I bet
it smelled. It was like so much weed. And he had kids on the bus. And he was worried. He's like, I just want to keep the smoke out, because I got the kids in the back, and I don't want the kids to have the smoke. And then he looked at me and he went, "The wrong kind of smoke." We sat and chatted, and he just was always super cool. Oh, and I'm forgetting the other thing too. His guitar Trigger, guitar that he's played forever, that's been rebuilt 1,000 times. Which, by the way, the story behind that guitar is he wanted a classical guitar. He'd been playing steel string guitars. He called a guitar shop, and they're like, "Yeah, we got one." And he's like, "Well, bring it." They delivered it to him, and then that's been his guitar forever.
Ever since.
But
there's a hole in it.
It has a gigantic hole. It used to be a little hole. Now it's like barely even a guitar anymore. But if you'll notice, it's autographed. Hundreds of autographs all over it. And when he was on the Conan show, and this is early on, he like had both him and me autograph it, and
No way.
I just was like,
That's cool.
I just was like, like I'm not worthy. As I was signing it, I was like, I just, I feel like you're just being way too polite. I said, because I was like, I don't belong on here, because you look at it and it's like Bob Dylan and James Brown and all these different names that you can make out, Chris Christopherson and then me,
Andy Richter.
yeah. So I'm sure it's obscured by now, but my name is on there somewhere.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Where do you remember where on the guitar? So just so if we can kind of look and see through pictures.
Well, first of all, we didn't have a Sharpie. It was with ballpoint pen, which is
No.
not the thing to sign a guitar with. So I didn't do it too
It's
heavy.
gone.
Yeah. But I think it was like, and I'm sure there's a pick guard over it or something. But if I remember correctly, it was like just under the pick guard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll look for it. Andy, this was so great. Here, let me get you the final questions and we'll get you out of here.
Okay.
What's your favorite song on this record, bud?
The one at the end called Hands on the Wheel, which kind of doesn't, it's like, it's almost doesn't really fit into the song. It's kind of what it indicates, because the story is guy's wife cheats, he murders her and her lover, he goes rides off with her horse, kills another woman who tries to steal his wife's horse. Then there's then he goes and meets another woman, and there's a redemption because he falls in love again. And this song is the second to last song, and it's basically the end song. The end thing is like, I'm beginning to feel like my hand's on the wheel, and I feel that I'm going home. And it's just a beautiful song about it's a love, it's like a love, like to me, it's just like the magical, just how somebody loving you just makes your place in the universe mean something.
Sure.
And I actually, when I was my marriage was falling apart, I was listening to when my marriage broke up, I couldn't read a book, I couldn't watch the news, I could just listen to music for like 5 months. And I was in Trader Joe's playing this album, and that song came on, and I was full on fucking weeping in Trader Joe's to that song. And just
hummus.
Yeah, just like, and really, but like, like trying to be cool, like like just standing by the soup, moving cans around with tears.
Is that
streaming
Andy
down my
Richter
face. Yeah,
weeping?
weeping.
Dude, but you know what? In your defense, I got emotional listening to this today too. This brings up a lot.
Yeah.
This album brings up so much if you let it. If you just hear it in the background, it's good background music. But the more you listen, if you feel these songs, and it's that, like I said, it's the simplicity of the record and of the recording. It feels raw. It feels, it's why everybody's favorite Bruce Springsteen record is Nebraska, because it's the rawest emotional musicianship that he could give you, and the recording feels like you're almost there with them, and so to feel that,
it's a western, and westerns are sparse. There's a town that has 5 buildings, there's a guy on a horse, and then an endless horizon, and this is the musical version of that. Like, there's no strings, and that's why it's westerns are so elemental, and it's just like a vessel that can be filled over and over and over, because westerns are westerns. Like, they're, you think like, well, you're going to run out of no. And like, I said it earlier, samurai movies are just westerns. There's a simple number of ingredients that get mixed up in different ways in endless combinations, and you can't believe that it could be so vital. And and it's the same way. Country music is just soul music. It's just poor people's music, and the people playing it are different colors. And that's somebody like Jelly Roll. he's singing black music and white music
Yep.
at the same time.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
kind of what the new, and thank God that's kind of the new trend of country music, although there's still a lot of racist motherfuckers in country music,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
that, you know, that small town, you know, try that in a small town. There's still that
Yeah.
ugly, ugly shit in country music, but they're trying to, you know, it's
opening.
the art,
I know
the
exactly what you're
art
saying.
form
Yeah.
itself is going to integrate itself, and
I think
because
so. Well,
it
how
doesn't
can
just
you not?
belong to white people, you know.
No, it's if America is you know is for everybody, then that's why it's like the stupid things when hip hop was getting big and like somebody would say something like I didn't make this record for white people. It's like no, but it's music and we
Yeah.
all enjoy it
Yeah.
and it's great. So don't make it
Right.
so like oh it's only these people. Like
Right.
country can you could see it. You could see it being appreciated by everybody. And I also think that really when people know that like what we said is that the music is so real and raw and about the poor people struggling and when you know what's behind it and not that it is just sitting by the creek and drinking a
Yeah.
beer
Yeah.
and when you
Thinking
get
about
past
my
all that
daddy.
when you get past all that shit and you get down to this and you get down to the Hank Williams and the Hank Williams Jr. and the Waylon, you really get to see why this is awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a song on this record that you skip over?
Some of the instrumentals are kind of, you know, it's like
Whatever.
yeah.
I get it.
I mean, they're pretty, but it's kind of like that's not what I'm here for. And I understand. I mean, I understand like the play. I can't remember which ones. But you know, like there's a couple of instrumentals after each other that are sort of the point at which he meets this new woman. You know.
Yeah.
Because there, you know, there's like in the Redheaded Stranger medley part, he talks about there's the first part where the guy goes and he finds his wife and this guy in a bar in a quiet little out of the way place, and they smiled at each other as he walked through the door, and they died with their smiles on their faces. And then in the second, when it comes back around, it's he meets a woman and they smile at each other. He says, and you know, and they went to a bar, a tavern, a quiet little out of the way place, and they smiled at each other and they danced with their smiles on their faces. And then there's two instrumentals that are sort of like the dances
Yeah.
that they're doing. And like the first one's sort of, you know, like a waltz, which this, you know, another thing I love about this album is like it's full of waltzes. It's a multi-platinum album full of waltzes. But it's a waltz, and then there's a happy song. So it's like he's turned, you know, it goes from a sad sort of poignant, they're coming together and it's slow, and then there's the joy, you know, he refines joy. But they're, you know, but you don't have to listen to him. You get the idea, you know.
I love this. I love it so much. Wait, hold on. I forgot to check. Did this make the cut? So on the 2020 re-rank, Redheaded Stranger fell. Oh, it dropped. It went down 54 spots. So it went to 237. So this, but it still made it. Stardust did not. That was the other one.
Again, these rankings, you know, like, you know, it's always
the critics.
We used to, I remember when I was a kid, WLS, the AM station would have, and I don't know, it was probably Labor Day. They would have like the top 500 songs and they would play them like ranked. And we'd get so like mad, like, wait a minute, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Hang On Sloopy is not better than Brandy, you know. Just get fine, girl. Yeah, and then you end up and it's like, no, come on, who cares, you know? Because we'd always be like, Hey Jude is not the best song ever. It's just not, you know, because that would always be number one, you know, and it's like, no, Hey Jude it's a nice song, but it's not.
It's a great song.
Who's really going like that's the best song ever?
I mean, this list is all like we were talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This list is all like old white people voting, and then the 2020 list was now like because that was like the summer of like George Floyd and everything. So they got a lot more. There's a lot more rap in there. There's a lot more newer music.
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
So So the fact that this record stayed on is actually a big deal. Because Stardust, I could see, which I love Stardust because I love the song Stardust by Nat King Cole is my favorite song of all time. It's like hands down, I love it so much. So hearing Willie's version and the rest of the covers are beautiful. And it's just like this, it's very simple and everything. But I could see that being like, meh, but this is important. This record is culturally significant. And it's like, if you're going to have a Willie Nelson record on, this is the one that you got to put on. And he's so big and important to music that it lasts. All right. I'm curious. Can you fuck to this record?
Not currently. My wife is not a country fan, so I don't really. And I've never been somebody that fucks to music very much.
Really?
No, it's too much of a distraction. Because I do find like music, I listen to it. Like I can't have like if I'm trying to write even just like an email and there's music with lyrics on, it's too difficult because I'm listening too much to the words. So I can write with like instrumental music, but if there's words in it, I'm listening, and if I'm fucking, I don't want to be listening to something else,
dude, JT, dude, Andy's fucking to like Vivaldi, like
of course, right? People know I'm classy. Yeah,
I don't think I know. I see. I'm not saying I need music. I just put music on just to set a mood or it's a beat or whatever. Do I think that I could fuck to this? Maybe. It's not I don't want to say it's a sexy album because it's not sexy, but it's lovely. This is something that like those Appalachian people probably fuck to. This definitely was on. They put on the record and they started dancing.
There's a lot of murder in it. You gotta be able to get past that.
If you know what it's about.
But musically,
just
sound wise, you can fuck to it.
Absolutely.
What would be your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record? Like how do you sum up this album?
Wow. It's gonna sound like highfalutin or anything, but it's primal. It's primal in that it turned country music around. It turned popular music around. He is a once in a lifetime genius, and this is him at his best. And if you don't like country music, you still can love this album because it's just it rises above genre, and it's a good story. And if who doesn't like a good story? And it's him at his best. It's a genius at his best. And
there it is. That's it right there. Yeah. You can't say that any better. It's just like it's a genius at his best. And it's probably one of the most famous and most prolific country recording artists of all time that, I think just Willie Nelson you don't just think of him as a country artist. You just think of him as an icon in the universe. So if you're ever wondering like, oh, that weed smoking old guy, Willie Nelson, this is why Willie's that weed smoking old 91-year-old that everybody loves.
I also want to tell people too. There's an album. It used to be on CD. That's just a collection of his demos, and I don't know if it's still available in a thing, but it's really worth listening to too.
Check it out.
Because it's kind of this album. Everybody said it's a demo. Like, why are you playing us the demo? He's like, no, that's not the demo.
Right.
That's the album.
These
Yeah,
these
yeah.
are the demos.
And so, but there is some demos, so it's kind of a similar thing, and they're kind of raw, and some of the recording is not great. It's obviously like being played in a hotel room or something, or being recorded
Yeah.
in a hotel room. But it's after this one, my favorite collection of Willie Nelson music. It's not, it wasn't meant to be an album, but it's really great, and really, again, kind of shows you his genius.